Good afternoon and welcome to the Retail Jeweler YouTube channel, and we have the very eminent Mr. Colin Shah, Chairman of GJEPC with us today. So welcome Colin. And Colin, what are your objectives for GJEPC and what are the projects for 2022?
Thanks Amit. So Council, our objective is only one and continues to be one, which is growing our exports out of India. We're really excited that after the pandemic year, we've shown this phenomenal growth this year and we should end the year at close to $40 billion. Next year, the ministry has given us a target of 50. We are hoping that we have a 10 to 15% growth over this year's number. And a lot of, the growth will depend upon the policy initiatives which are announced in the budget. So the two initiatives which will help us to achieve this growth is going to be the e-commerce policy by the end of June. That will add, I'm sure, $2-3 billion to our overall exports, because the e-commerce policy, like we've been passionately pursuing, I would say, over the last few years, will help, every district in India today will be able to export to 200 countries across the world through Indian Post without customs and a lot of paperwork hassles, which will, help the overall industry, and especially further to the Prime Minister's vision of making every district exportable. I think that will happen with the e-commerce policy. Second is the SEZ reboot or the 3.0, as we are saying. So after 15 years, finally the SEZ Act is being rewritten, and by end of September that should also get approval in Parliament, and 35% of our exports are SEZs. This will help the SEZs to flourish more, especially again post-pandemic. There is a huge shift of business happening from China towards India, and this will only further accelerate that growth.
Great. And coming to the very ambitious project of the India Jewellery Park, which is going to start taking registrations from the month of April. So what is your vision and what is the project update for that India Jewellery Park?
So Jewellery Park is, it's basically our dream as an industry. If you look at it, and we are all proud Mumbaikas, you and me. And what's happened is that over the last 2 decades, with BDB and SEEPs especially, we have the Bharat Diamond Bourse, which is the largest bourse in the world, 3,000 diamond offices. We have SEEPs, which is again the largest export zone out of India, 200 factories, $3 billion of exports. And then you have factories right from the entire Western Railway Belt, Central Railway Belt, and you of course have this huge cluster in Jewellery Bazaar. So our vision for Mumbai, the missing piece, is a jewellery park for the DTA area, and that's what we thought we could build in New Bombay. Graciously the state government has given us this 21 acres. We're going to have a large. It's going to be a much larger complex than anything you've seen in the country, and this gives us the great opportunity of consolidating all the jewellery factories in not only Mumbai, but we are also seeing strong demand coming in from across the country to moving their premises to this one large complex. Now, what will this one large complex, how will it benefit the members? The members at large will get benefited because the way again we're envisioning it is there will be one building which will only house the retailer buying offices. So you will have large retailers, small, mid-size, all kinds of retailers from all over the country having their buying offices in this one building, where you'll also have the ancillary services like hallmarking, certification, and everything else which a QA, QC, which a retailer will need to service his needs. Then there will be one complex which will have the middle to large size factories, and one complex which will have the babus, smaller karigars, and people who can't really afford, I would say, high-tech modern spaces. So you will have this entire industry in this one complex, buyers and sellers together with every service that they would need under one roof. I think that's going to be extremely powerful for the industry for the next couple of decades, because this will give the ability of everyone being able to source whatever they need in a speedy, cost-efficient way.
And what are the timelines you're looking at? Because it's just the registrations are beginning now. When do you see the first phase going live of the India Jewellery Park?
See, unlike a lot of, I think, projects happened in the past, which took many years to see the fruition of the day, fortunately or unfortunately, today we are all governed by the RERA rules. And as per the RERA rules, we will be adhering to very strict timelines. The first phase will be up for renovation in the next 2 years. So this is not going to be a very long-term project. We are hoping that in between 2 to 3.5 years, we'll wrap up the entire complex, and I guess the couple of thousand units that will be there will be fully operational by 2025.
Great. And coming now to the first show of 2022, which is the IIJS Signature, which is starting from 18th of February in Mumbai. There's a lot of excitement, all the retailers from across country, all the international buyers, they're all coming in. So what is your view on the show? How is it going to start the year for the entire industry? And where do you see this impact going for especially the domestic business?
Samit, so IIJS has, not only I would say for a manufacturer like Kama or many manufacturers that we are friends with over the years, has been extremely lucky. It's helped build all of us our entire domestic business. We've met every customer that we know today at this show, and even over the years, all of us have become friends on the manufacturer and supplier side is because of IIJS. Having said that, IIJS started in 8, 9, 10, like in Goa, used to be 50 booths, only an international show. We used to have customers coming in from all over the world, and from that smaller format, it has evolved in the last decade into the second largest show after IIJS premiere. So today we have close to 1,000 exhibitors, 14,000 visitors. We are providing hotel nights to all our elite buyers, and the kind of enthusiasm that we are seeing swell up in the last couple of weeks is phenomenal. I guess for retailers, it's going to be variety, because a lot of smaller regional shows have happened, but they're very focused on that particular region and the kind of jewelry being there. In IIJS, just like Premier and in Signature, we'll have diamond jewelry, plain gold jewelry, polki, silver jewelry, lab grown, everything possible. Plus, we have a large machinery pavilion. So, in terms of variety, I think it's second to only IIJS Premier in the year. And it's a great start to the year. Everyone's had a very strong season, and retailers are, I would say, keenly looking forward to placing very large orders to all our manufacturers for the Akshaya Tritiya.
In the GJEPC document for 2022 onwards, the two industries or segments which have been given the status of sunrise segments is lab-grown diamonds and silver jewelry. So what is the GJEPC's plan to activate these two segments, and what is the future for these two segments?
So for lab-grown and silver, Council earlier did not have board seats. Now we have board seats. We have panels which have been specially created for both these segments. And just like any other panel, these panels will now look after the interests of these particular segments in terms of doing particular buyer-seller shows, technology innovations, policy initiatives with government. So that will start happening from this quarter onwards for both these segments. And having said that, the phenomenal growth we've seen on lab grown from 100 million, it's grown to $1 billion this year. And we expect this industry to be between $3 and $5 billion very soon. And in silver also, it has grown from 100 million to $1 billion in the last only couple of years. And again, that's another sector which we see growing into $3 to $5 billion in the next 2-3 years. Why? Because there is a huge shift happening from China, that's for sure. And secondly, lab grown, believe it or not, when it started, everyone thought that this is going to threaten the natural industry. What will happen? How will the two coexist? But what we've seen in the last 2 years is they're beautifully coexisting. Natural, the prices have gone up by 20-25% in the last year, shown phenomenal growth, and the belief which retailers have in the natural industry has become more energized and very excited that it's grown the way it has. And at the same time, lab grown sector has also grown for the same retailer. So they are both. So the retailer also is seeing that there is a consumer who wants to buy both. There is a consumer who only wants to buy natural or only wants to buy lab grown. But in the end, it's not cannibalizing the space of each other. They're both complementing and growing the segment of gems and jewelry overall. So that's happened for sure.
So Colin, thank you very much for the update on the lab grown and silver. Can we also have your view on the rising attraction or increase in color gemstones in the Indian and the international market? we know that emerald is, Jaipur is the largest cutting and polishing center for emeralds. What do you see the future of Jaipur and India, particularly for color gemstones?
So Jaipur always has had this mystique around it, and especially when it came to emerald, tanzanite, morganite, they've been global leaders. In rubies, though, we are substantially large, but not that large. But what we see is a huge opportunity for our friends in Jaipur and the gemstone industry in general. Is globally, gemstones has become much more trendier than they used to be, number one. Number two, there is much more awareness in the millennials on the different stones which exist. And if we see, just like in diamonds, in gemstones too, in the last 2-3 years, we've seen a huge spike in pricing because of the growing demand. Now, as that is happening, and I'll give you an interesting tidbit, Samit, but there are nearly on eBay and Amazon 700 e-commerce players who have mushroomed in Jaipur and the neighboring region, who are selling their gemstones directly online. So these were smaller companies, entrepreneurs working from home, who maybe did not have market access, who did not maybe know how to go about exporting. But today with e-commerce, and especially the policy which is coming out in June, I think it's going to help that sector and industry to really grow exponentially, because it will give a young entrepreneur sitting from home, all he needs is a good website and a listing on Amazon, eBay to get his business going. And they have access to the gemstones. There is a market, I would say, all over the world for gemstones. So what we are very anxiously and I guess awaiting is that how quickly this e-commerce policy is going to help that region grow exponentially.
Okay. What does this e-commerce policy will do when it comes into play from June? What are the 3-4 main aspects of this policy?
See, there are only 2 aspects which any e-commerce policy or I guess business needs, or maybe 3. One is you need speedy delivery, because e-commerce customers want delivery within 24-48 hours. The cost needs to be low, because typically, say if your average unit price is $100 or $150, you don't want the freight cost to be more than $5-10, because then that's a disincentive for the consumer to buy. And thirdly, for e-commerce trade to flourish out of India, you need a return policy, because if anybody is buying on a marketplace, the consumer does want the ability of being able to return that piece if they do not wish to buy it. So having said that, this e-commerce policy will take care of all those 3 aspects for our industry. That they'll be able to deliver fast, because they'll have access to Indian Post all over the country. They've assured us that the cost is going to be very nominal, plus access to international airports, which will enable our exporters to export on the same day or maximum the next day. And we will also have the return privilege. So it should take care of all the aspects we will need as an industry to flourish.
Great. Thank you very much, Colin. Thank you for all those inputs. I'm sure the entire trade will be very delighted to hear about this upcoming e-commerce policy, and also the IIJS signature we are looking forward to start the year with a big bang. Thank you very much.